Hello and welcome to the November monthly forecast. I'm Marga, and this is a monthly astrological forecast for Agents of Evolution. All of you out there willing and able to stay at your evolutionary edge in service of the collective evolution. And this month, November, Agents of Evolution are really going to get some practice time. The most important thing to understand about November is we will be getting, let's call it zaps to the electrical power grid. And this can be literal or figurative. That's the way astrology works. Those two are not really separate. So literal, meaning it could zap the electrical power grid or the internet or the stock exchange or any of those kinds of grids where power is distributed. In the same way, there are collective ways we distribute power among ourselves. Those invisible grids are also getting zapped this month in kind of productive ways and just sort of disruptive ways. So wherever these grids or the old institutions or the old power structures live in our lives individually, they may get challenged in the month of November. It could be experienced as shock, or it could be experienced as awakening, or it could be just kind of like, well, surprise. So in the month of November, as things shift and change for you, the way to approach it is with a sort of curiosity, and trying not to get too bent out of shape by the disruption things are causing. There's a real exciting and possibly nerve-wracking forward moving energy kind of dominating the astrosphere in November. And it is very important to ground during this time. You can avoid exacerbating the negative effects by avoiding too many stimulants, things like caffeine and sugar, because you're going to get plenty of it astrologically. So grounding is anything that allows your body the chance to actually physically ground to the earth and the regulation of energy through the earth. So this can be things like putting your bare feet in the grass, or breathing deeply and calmly and allowing your body to recenter itself. The month may bring sudden realizations, things that you've kind of known you need to do or to move toward, ways of being that you've been wanting to embody for a long time. This month is really going to kind of give you that boost, that nudge to actually be in that space that you have been creating for yourself for a long time. This can be internally, it can be externally with certain decisions that you're making or life changes that you're planning. So you might receive sudden realizations about how to do that and how to actually move forward. The trick is also going to be not to get too far ahead of yourself in trying to implement those changes. The realizations may be sudden, but there is still, taking care of all the steps and not trying to do everything at once or push everything through the mill at the same time. Things have to kind of get fed through the processing systems one at a time. So that's going to be part of the challenge of November, is to balance this sense of forward moving push with a kind of healthy, well-paced, patient, enduring, planned sort of approach. The time period that's really highlighted is between November 10th and November 17th in terms of these kind of disruptions to the power grid. That middle 10 or 7 days, that middle week of the month is when we'll really see some of those events take place that affect each of us in different ways. And as has been true for the past couple months, communications continue to be kind of testy. We've got um, Mercury involved, planet Mercury involved in all of those big configurations between November 10th and November 17th, where Mars is square Saturn and Mars is opposite Uranus. Mercury's getting involved in that mix. So, what I can see happening is we get some news and it feels disruptive. And we're kind of like, well, I don't know what to do about that. I don't know how to react. I don't know how to move forward. And we get a little stressed. And maybe the shock kind of stops us in our tracks and we're kind of acting on autopilot anyway. So it's really important during especially that time between the 10th and the 17th to exercise a lot of patience with yourself in terms of the communications, the messages that you're sending yourself. Overthinking is going to be where, even if you're not prone to it during that period, overthinking will be pretty forefront. So you want to ground yourself so that the overthinking isn't taking a hold of you. So again, for me, that's deep breathing. You may have other ways of counterbalancing that tendency to overthink. Other communications might be tinged with frustration or aggravation or annoyance, and sometimes it's because we're just tripping over ourselves trying to move too fast. So again, you're putting one thing through the mill at a time. You can't do more than that. No matter what the situation seems to call for, only one thing can go through at a time. So to really just exercise the patience and the sort of good judgment about, okay, I can only do as much as I can do. What is the right thing for me to do in this moment? So if you get crazy news during the month of November, you want to zoom out and give the news a lot of space. And rather than kind of getting in there and starting to tussle with the news with your mind, zoom out, give yourself a lot of space to just consider, what does that mean? What do I need to do in this moment? Some of the arenas where I think we may hear news this month are around the internet or technology in general, or air travel, or supply chains, which is already, all of these have already been in the news. I think November is a month when we might see some real disruptions. The labor markets, the technology that govern financial systems. Uh, it could be about shocks to the system or upgrades to the system. So your bank is getting an upgrade to their system or something like that, and it possibly causes some disruptions for a little bit. Because these transits are kind of volatile and they have echoes back to the beginning of January, we may see some follow up of what happened in the beginning of January around the January 6th insurrection. So if that is part of the news that we hear, I want you to remember a couple of things. So working with fear and working with the sense of being spun around. So in working with fear, the very best thing you can do in a moment of kind of like getting really taken out of the body with fear is to bring yourself into the moment, is to bring yourself literally back to your senses, which means, what are my eyes seeing right now? What is the feeling on my arms right now? Is there a scent in the room? What kind of light is coming in through the windows? To really engage your senses in that moment, because it's only in being present in that moment that you can respond to whatever needs to be responded to with uh, in a good way. Also, the sense of being spun around, the sense of being kind of in, how can this happen? How can, the sense of shock, the sense of being spun around, that the way to work with that is the same. You want to ground, you want to bring yourself into the moment. One great thing, if you can remember it, is to bring yourself into the moment and notice what you are grateful for. Like right now, I am grateful for the apple tree right outside my window that is here every time I give a reading, every time I do any work, throughout the entire time I was writing my book. This apple tree has been here with me through it all. And I feel so much gratitude for this apple tree. So letting your heart expand, letting your heart be present, letting yourself be in the moment will counterbalance fear and will counterbalance the sense of shock or being spun around. So I want you to remember that, to bring yourself back to your senses and to remember gratitude in those moments. On a very positive note, the month of November is incredible for real breakthroughs, real awakenings. You may have been for even up to 2 years kind of circling around a certain kind of new life, new experience, new being that you've wanted to embody, wanted to inhabit. And you've known all the steps to get there. You've known what was not working. And now, in this month of November, you're really going to be kind of pushed or nudged to actually take those steps. And that, for most of us, it begins with an internal action, an internal decision, an internal harnessing of our own will, our own power to move into this new that that has been knocking on the door and is now kind of breaking down the door in November, saying, time's up. Time is up. It's time to embody this now. So whatever that is for you, a great being once said, the secret to sadhana is to use everything to your advantage. That could maybe be rephrased as, the secret to evolution is using every event in life as practice. And November is going to be really good practice month. So use the events of November for your evolution. Use them to discover aspects of yourself that have not yet come online, that you're so close to, that you really feel so close to. Let them come online. Allow them the breakthrough that they've been waiting for. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you about the November 19th lunar eclipse that is taking place in the lunar sign of Kritika. And Kritika is associated with Agni, or fire, the digestive fire, but also fire in general. So over these next 6 months, from November 19th on, we will be seeing our own fire in a new light, our own digestive fire also in a new light. What we digest physically, literally, and also figuratively, metaphorically, on kind of emotional and spiritual levels. So digestion and the proper use of fire. So if I could give you some scheduling advice, I would say try to be very simple about your schedule from November 10th until the 19th. Be very spacious in the way that you schedule yourself, because there may be disruptions that you want to be able to digest. So give yourself some slack, give yourself some room, some space. Try not to schedule yourself in too complex or complicated a way. If you're curious to learn more about this really subtle metaphysical way of working with your own evolution in light of what's going on for us astrologically as a collective, you will love my book, Agents of Evolution, an astrological guide for transformative times. In the book, I really go in depth on different practices and competencies that we can all develop to navigate these times of transformation. Have a wonderful November, and I will see you again next month for the December monthly forecast.